Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope, thank you for joining us on another snowy day. Hope the snowblowers are all keeping up. And I'd like to welcome you to today's hearings. The Committee of Adjustment is appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variances to the zoning bylaw. Please be advised that any applicant or agent that is in attendance in person at today's hearing for a specific application may leave the hearing once their application has been considered by the committee. Any applicant, agent, or member of the public wishing to address the committee for a specific application is reminded that presentations are limited to 10 minutes per person. And Mr. Ungerman, one of our members, is joining us remotely today. Howard, I wonder if you want to just come in and make sure that's working for us? If you want to try commenting. You have to press the talk button, I think, right?
Good morning, Howard. Yes, so we are seeing that you're in the meeting, and if you could just press your talk button and try saying something, then we'll see if we can see you on screen. Thank you.
It should show here. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Just we'll see if we can get this working. There you are, Howard. Go ahead.
Okay, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, and we see you. And I'm reminded to say happy birthday to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks. We'll carry on. And could I please have a motion to adopt today's agenda? Watson and Sims. And would the Secretary Treasurer please read the resolution to adopt the agenda?
Moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that the agenda of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated January 23rd, 2026 be adopted.
Okay, and we'll call for the vote on that. And that carries. Thank you. And do any committee members have any comments with regard to the minutes to be adopted today? And could I please have a motion to adopt the minutes for November 21st, 2025? Member Strength and Member Sims. And would the Secretary Treasurer please read the resolution to adopt the minutes?
Moved by Member Strang, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated November 21st, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, and we'll call for the vote on that. And the adoption of the minutes carries. Thank you. Do any committee members have a pecuniary interest in the applications being heard today? Seeing none. In accordance with Section 11 of the Committee of Adjustment Procedural Bylaw, I'll ask if the Secretary Treasurer has received any requests for adjournment, deferral, or withdrawal from the applicant or agent for any application on the agenda today.
No request, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The Committee of Adjustment will today consider 5 new minor variance applications under public hearings. The Planning Act requires that a public hearing be held before the Committee of Adjustment decides whether or not to approve a consent or a minor variance. The public hearing serves two purposes. First, to present to the Committee of Adjustment and the public the details and background to the application, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a decision is made. I will briefly summarize the procedure to be used for the hearing. The Secretary-Treasurer, Mr. Adam Ager, will advise as to when, how, and to whom notice of the public hearing was circulated. The planners, Angela Jakatis or Andrew Clark, will provide any other information that is relevant to the application and summarize any correspondence on file. From there, the applicant will be provided the opportunity to make a presentation, followed by questions or presentations from the public, either in favor of or against the proposal. Committee members will then have the opportunity to question the applicant, the Secretary-Treasurer, the planners, or anyone giving presentations. The proposed variance will then be considered by the committee. If anyone from the public would like to receive a copy of the decision made on any application, please provide your name and full mailing address on one of the forms provided on the table at the back of the room. Would the Secretary-Treasurer please advise how, when, and to whom notices of the public hearings were circulated?
Notice of the public hearings concerning the proposed applications were sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 60 meters of the properties subject to the proposed minor variance applications and emailed to applicable agencies. Included with each notice was a summary of the application, a site sketch, and a key map showing the location of the property. The circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13.
Thank you. It is important to note that should committee approve any application, there is a 20-day appeal period, during which time today's decision may be appealed. During this appeal period, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. Also, in the event there is an appeal, and in order to be kept advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, members of the public must request to be sent a copy of committee's decision on the application. Third-party appeals are no longer accepted. Only the applicant, the municipality, and certain public bodies will be able to appeal a minor variance decision. So we will now get into the applications for minor variance. I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A26-2025 GR for Aberdeen. I will now ask the planner, Andrew Clark, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody. The property is located in the northeastern area of the town. It's north of Doe Lake and south of Doe Lake Road. The property is accessed by Boys Bridge Lane, which is a privately maintained condominium road, and it also has assessed frontage on Doe Lake. The property is zoned residential waterfront, RW6, and is designated waterfront area in the town's official plan. The property is developed with a detached dwelling, a shoreline deck, and a dock. It's well vegetated and consists of a natural shoreline, which you can see on the aerial consists of a mix of rock outcrops, trees, shrubs, and marshy vegetation. The property is within a residential waterfront area, which has similar development characteristics on Doe Lake, and there's also larger rural properties, which you can see to the north. An application has been submitted to permit a reduced setback for a new accessory building from the optimal summer water level of 20.8 meters, where 30 meters is required, representing a variance of 9.2 meters. Just for some context, the building that's being proposed is shown here on the site plan. The application also includes permitting a form of habitable space within the accessory building, which is intended to be used for relaxation, but at a higher intensity than what is currently permitted for a gazebo in the zoning bylaw, because it will be fully enclosed along with a potential wood stove and electricity. While this does require relief from the zoning bylaw, it's also worth noting a sleeping cabin is currently permitted by the zoning of the property, which is a higher intensity use than what's being proposed. Comments of no objection have been received from the Chief Building Official, Deputy Treasurer, Infrastructure Technologist, and Fire and Emergency Services Department. Moving into looking at some site photos, this looks west from the existing dwelling on the property, shows the location of the proposed accessory building, which has been staked on the right in this general area. You can note that it's on a relatively flat area, and cleared area, and that there's also existing shoreline vegetation around it that is intended to be preserved. This looks east from the proposed building to the existing dwelling, which indicates both buildings will appear oriented similarly to one another. This looks south towards Doe Lake from the building footprint. You can see the front right stake there in the foreground. You can see the building remains on an elevated portion that's outside of the immediate shoreline area. We can see the shoreline area in the background, which is naturally vegetated, and also noting the irregular orientation of the water further in the background, which helps inform the required relief. The proposed setback has also been supported by a site assessment report, which has concluded that negative impacts to water quality or significant habitat in this area would not be expected. Turning around and looking north, we can see the rear lot line and Boys Bridge Lane, along with a neighboring rural property. And it's worth noting that at this location, the building will meet the setback requirements from this rear lot line and road. Here's another view of existing shoreline vegetation looking west. This is from the front area of the existing dwelling. Again, this is showing that the property's shoreline is in quite a well-vegetated state. And this looks north in the rear of the property, showing existing vegetation. The proposed building location has been cited with the intent to minimize the need for additional site alteration and vegetation removals on the property. So as detailed in the staff report, planning staff are satisfied the proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance and recommend the approval of the application for setback relief. And also that staff are satisfied that it is not the intention of the zoning bylaw to prohibit habitable space within an accessory building in the form that's being proposed, and recommend that committee grant permission under section 45(2)B, the Planning Act, to allow habitable space as a permitted use, subject to the condition that the existing site plan agreement is amended to implement the recommendations of the site assessment report. And that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? If they are present, you're here? Okay, if we have any questions, we'll send them your way, okay? Thank you. And are there any questions or comments from members of the public attending in person today? Seeing none. Okay, committee, the staff's recommendation is to approve this minor variance application. Does committee have a motion to that effect, or Watson and Strength? Motion to approve. And I will now ask Adam Ager to please read the resolution.
Moved by member Watson, seconded by member Strength. Be it resolved that application number A26-2025 GR Aberdeen be approved, and that permission be granted subject to section 45(2)B of the Planning Act, and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared conditional upon the existing site plan agreement being amended to implement the recommendations of the site assessment prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc., dated November 10th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee to the applicants, the secretary treasurer, the planners, or anyone else? Seeing none. Okay. I will ask the planner if there's any recommendations or comments to bring to the attention of the committee as a result of these proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff recommend the application is approved with the recommended condition.
Okay, thank you. We will then call for the vote on that application. And that carries. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. Thank you for coming out. I will now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A27-2025 GR for Mirlaka. And I'll now ask the planner, Andrew Clark, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property, which is municipally known as 1211 North Cache Lake Road, is within the central eastern area of the town. More specifically, it's within the Cluies Bay Rural Settlement Area to the north of Cache Lake. The property is a backlot that is accessed from North Cache Lake Road, which is municipally maintained. It's owned residential community and is within the rural settlement area designation of the official plan. The property has historically been developed with a dwelling as seen on this map, although this has very recently been removed and a new dwelling is in the process of being constructed in the same general footprint. It also contains an existing sleeping cabin, which is within the front yard, which the town does not have a legal record of and is subject to this application. The property is cleared in its central area, sloping downwards from the road to the location of the existing development, and then upwards again at the rear. There is a good amounts of natural vegetation in the form of mature trees along the side lot lines and also on the rear portion. And a drainage culvert has also been noted on the eastern side lot line from the abutting property. The northern side lot line. The property is within a residential area, which you can see the immediately surrounding neighbors consists of similarly sized lots, which are developed with detached dwellings that are visible from the street. So the applicant is proposing to legalize the existing sleeping cabin on the property. In order to do so, an application has been submitted to permit a front lot line setback of 7.9 meters, where 12 meters is required, representing a variance of 4.1 meters. And comments of no objection have been received from the chief building official, who did indicate that a building permit will also be required to legalize the sleeping cabin. The manager of revenue and the infrastructure technologist or the fire and emergency services departments. Moving on to site photos, this looks west at the property from the road. You can note the existing sleeping cabin. You can see it's on a flat portion on the property and is at a lower elevation than the road due to the sloping. Moving into the property, you can see this is a partially excavated area where the new dwelling is going to be built. You can see that there's limited space to develop behind this area due to not only the lot dimensions, but the existing constraints, these slopes, which can be noted over here on the right-hand side of the image. Now looking east, this shows the kind of front portion of the sleeping cabin. Again, noting it does appear well separated from the road, which is in the background. It's also worth noting that it meets the minimum setback requirement from the road surface itself. You can also see the dwelling on the neighboring property to the right, which is set back closer to the road than this structure. This is just a photo of the existing culvert that I referenced previously. It does drain onto the property, and you can see in this photo there was some water around that culvert. But it's worth noting we didn't see any of this drainage across the property or near the sleeping cabin. And drainage is intended to be managed and improved on the site as part of the overall redevelopment. Finally, this looks south down North Cache Lake Road from the property. You can note the visibility and proximity of some of the surrounding properties and development. And you can also see that there's kind of a natural area to the right-hand side that's part of the road allowance, which does provide a buffer from the road and sleeping cabin. So the requested setback is not anticipated to negatively impact the use of the road or the surrounding character in the community. As outlined in the staff report, planning staff are satisfied the application meets the 4 required tests of a minor variance and recommend the application be approved, subject to the condition that a building permit is received for the sleeping cabin. And that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Please come forward. And you know the drill.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is Bobby Lappington of Design by Bobby, and I am representing the owners of 1211 North Cache Lake Road. Thank you to staff. Next slide, please. We start with the site plan, and I want to highlight the placement of the cottage as sort of in the middle of the property due to topographic restraints. And it's like a little valley coming off the road down to the site and then back up at the back. Pointing out, this the scale and size of the sleeping cabin at 10.6 square meters in comparison to the cottage and matching, the characteristics of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So these are the site photos. The left photo shows the sleeping cabin, which is in blue, just off the road and at a lower elevation than the road. And in behind where the excavator is where the new site of the cottage will be built. So how do we meet the 4 tests of a minor variance? Well, our proposal is minor in nature. We do have a small lot, and the minor variance request to the road setback is both numerically and in terms of impact, very small. The 4 tests continued. How do we maintain the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw? The official plan permits low-density residential uses, and the development of the property with a cabin and cottage are appropriate to the area. And how do we meet the intent of the zoning bylaw is when we look at the overall zoning bylaw for lot coverage and setbacks, and we meet the intent of the bylaw with the exception of the road setback. And is it desirable in the neighborhood? Yes, it is very consistent with the small footprint and the small development of the cottages in the surrounding area. I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. And are there any questions or comments from members of the public who are attending here? I see none. Okay, committee, the staff's recommendation is to approve the minor variance application. Does committee have a motion to approve this? Mr. Sims and Strength. I'll now ask Adam Ager to please read that resolution.
Moved by Member Sims, seconded by Member Strength. Be it resolved that application number A 27-2025 GR Merlaka be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared conditional upon a building permit being obtained for the sleeping cabin.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions or comments, committee? I see none. Thank you. And I'll ask the planner if there are any recommendations or comments to bring to our attention as a result of these proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff recommend the application is approved with the recommended condition.
Okay, and then we'll call for the vote on that resolution. And that carries, thank you. I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A 28-2025 GR for Como. I'll now ask the planner, Andrew Clark, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property, which is municipally known as 240 Ravel Street, is in the western area of the town's urban center, specifically more west of North Mulgrave Lake Road and south of Musquash Road. The property shown in red on this map is accessed from Ravel Street, which is municipally maintained, zoned residential 1, and is within the urban residential area designation of the official plan. The property is currently vacant. The front portion is relatively flatter and cleared, which we'll see in some of the upcoming photos. However, the site does slope upwards quite significantly, moving towards the rear, where steep bedrock outcropping exists along with mature vegetation. The property is within an established residential area where surrounding properties consist of detached dwellings with varying setbacks from the street and that are also generally well vegetated. An application has been submitted to allow the construction of a porch attached to a proposed dwelling, which is defined by a setback of 4.1 meters from the front lot line, where 6 meters is required, representing a variance of 1.9 meters. Comments of no objection have been received from the chief building official, manager of revenue, the infrastructure technologist, the fire and emergency services department. This looks, looking at our site photos, this first photo looks east at the proposed development location from the front lot line. You can note the flatter area more on the right-hand side where the building is proposed, along with the steeper bedrock slopes that are noted further to the rear and the left-hand side of this image. And that's where disturbance is intended to be minimized. This looks west from the location of the front lot line, You can note the location of the road and the surrounding residential development. It's also worth noting the proposed porch will meet the minimum setback requirement from the road surface itself. It's also going to be buffered by the natural area of the road allowance. If we move back to the road and look east into the property again, we get a better view of the very front of the property. We can note existing bedrock and trees, which are on the road allowance portion, and that will help screen the building from the street further. And you can also see the neighboring dwelling on the right. And then finally, this looks north up Ravel Street. This just shows the existing road configuration, the surrounding properties, and where a natural character is maintained. It's worth noting this is a dead-end residential street where frequent traffic wouldn't be expected, and it's not expected the requested setback would negatively affect the use of this infrastructure or disrupt the surrounding character. As outlined in the staff report, staff are satisfied that the application meets the 4 required tests of a minor variance and would recommend that the application be approved. And that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll ask for comments from the applicant, Rob Como, who has pre-registered to address us electronically. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but I think you have to turn your video on.
Ah. Let's see. Sorry. Hi there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
This is my first time, so I'm guessing everything went well.
I think we've lost your, perhaps you're having internet issues there, Mr. Como.
Hi, Rob. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I will, it seems that you have dropped off the meeting. I'm going to send you another link, so go ahead and go into your email and accept that second link, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
We'll just give him another few seconds here. Yeah, we'll do that. I think we're going to carry on. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public attending on this one? If you have a question, you can come forward. Yep. We would need your name and mailing address along with postal code. Press your button on the podium there, the little talk button, that's it. And I'll bring
Hi.
you in. Go ahead.
It's Patricia Wilson and 260 Ravel Street. Do you need the postal code too? P1P0E3. I was just wondering actually how far the town owns from the road before this is going to start. Like, is this setback from the actual road, like before the ditch, or is this from the property line, the front property line? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. I'll let our planning staff answer that question.
And I had one more question. Should I say them both now?
Yeah, why don't you do them both?
Okay, and the second question was, because it's a really sloping part of the road, and what's the drainage situation going to be? Because it can definitely, slopes to the right of his property all the way down. So what has been resolved about that? Now, those are my two questions.
Okay, and we'll see, Mr. Clark, if you can answer those for us.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. In terms of how much land is between the road surface and the actual front lot line, so the front lot line is not from the edge of the road. It varies back by at least a few meters. In terms of how much additional land, I haven't done a survey accurate measurement to confirm how much of the additional road allowance land is between the road and the front lot line. I believe in the report, what was measured based on their grading plan was about 11 meters setback from the actual road surface and the lot line. But there's at least a few meters of natural road allowance that's there. It's not where the setback's being the setback being requested is from that lot line, which is further inwards from the actual road. With respect to the drainage, there is as part of the building permit for the dwelling, the applicant has had a grading plan prepared, which with the intention to appropriately manage stormwater from the actual dwelling itself to the infrastructure on the road. That could be on the road allowance, any ditching. I believe they have a swale that's proposed, but that's what it looks like on their site plan here, which is also their drainage and grading plan. So the intention is to appropriately manage drainage through that intervention, through a swale, I believe, on the south side of the property.
Okay, thank you, and suffice it to say, I think that, again, we are only looking at the setback of the front porch and all the other requirements for the house that's being built, according to, getting the building permit and those other, the site plan, drainage plan, things like that are probably not as relevant to this application for the setback. Is that? I mean, basically, there's a number of rules required to be, and conditions to build the house itself regardless, right?
Yes, correct. Through any kind of building permit process especially within the town's urban area, there has to be a grading plan done by a professional, either engineer or surveyor, which in this case has been done, and the intention is to make sure vacant lots are appropriately graded when they're developed so that there's not negative stormwater impacts, and that any stormwater is flowing appropriately to the appropriate infrastructure areas.
Okay, thank you. So I'm told that Mr. Como is able to address us now. Go ahead, Bob. Don't see him yet. Did you want to press your, there we are. Okay.
Sorry. Hi there. I'm with my dad, Mike. This is my first time on something like this, so what do you guys need from us?
You can just give us your take on your application, and I'm assuming you were able to hear the planner's presentation?
I missed about half because of the Wi-Fi cutting out, but I received a new link and caught the last snippet there. So I missed a little bit, and I have my dad here on the call to help answer any questions because he's helping me with the build. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, our porch sticks out a little bit out of bounds. We wanted to really keep that and keep the house where it is. keep the size as is. It's 30 by 40, and we can't push it back any further because of all the bedrock behind, and it would just be way too expensive to blast all that. So yeah, that was the purpose of this minor variance, was to hopefully keep the footprint of the house where it is, keep the size of the house where it is, as is, and keep our porch there with the roof overhang for protection in the wintertime, especially when people come and visit with our
I think you're cutting out.
crazy winter storms. So that
Do you want to try with your video off, Bob? Just because you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. Just continue with,
how's that? Can you guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you fine. Thank you. If there's
Okay.
anything more.
Do you know where I cut off?
I think we caught most of it. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah, it's just mostly the bedrock behind the house. We cannot push the house back any further. I wish we could, but there's just too much rock back there. So that's why we had applied for this variance in the first place. We didn't really want to lose 2 or 3 feet from the house to bring the porch back. The house isn't a massive house, but it's a good size for a family of 4.
Okay, I think we've got the gist of that now. Are there any questions, committee, for Mr. Como while we have him here? No? Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Mr. Como. And if we have any further questions, we'll try to bring you back in.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've heard there were no members of the public who wished, or just the one. Anyone further? Any other members of the public? And did you get an answer to the questions you had there? I think, yeah, with the setback, we heard that there is additional distance to the actual road. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the committee. The staff's recommendation here is to approve this minor variance. Do we have a motion to that effect? Member Strength and Member Sims. And I'll ask Mr. Ager to please read the resolution.
Moved by Member Strength, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that application number A28, 2025 GR Como be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
Thank you. And committee, have questions? Go ahead, Mr. Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To staff, my question would be in regards to the drainage. I know you've said that the drainage has to be done by a professional and documented. What if it doesn't work? Where do the neighbors stand as far as any type of recourse that they could have if the drainage causes problems to their property?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. If there was a drainage issue, then there could be a complaint made to our bylaw division about that. I believe it is controlled through certain bylaws like property standards, and that could be further investigated. But the intention is to have a professional prepare it at this stage, at the building permit stage, not the minor variance stage, to make sure that the grades are done in a way that those impacts wouldn't be expected after construction.
Okay. Further?
Would this information and the actual work being done be communicated with the neighbors so that they could be rest assured that they're not going to have issues?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that would be a building process matter, a building permit process matter. I can't speak to how much information can be given out. I know that neighbors aren't circulated. They might be aware of a permit being issued by a sign being posted on the property, but they'd have to communicate directly with our building division about that to see what information could be conveyed through the application process.
Homo could keep the neighborhood informed on what's being proposed and how it's being proposed, just so that the neighborhood could be at rest with knowing that they're not going to have any runoff or damage to their properties.
Go ahead, Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Member Watson, and just for those in the room and online too, you're absolutely right, Member Watson. We do encourage neighbors to share that information with their community, but in addition to that too, it's also important to keep in mind with the grading, that's sort of at the very end stage of the building permit and final approval. They check the grades at the very end, so during construction, that doesn't necessarily mean what's happening during construction is what's going to be the final result. So I just wanted everyone to keep in mind that during construction versus the final grading and approved grading happens at the very end of the building permit process, not during the actual construction.
Mr. Sims, go ahead.
Thank you. I share the concern that Member Watson has described, and I also share the concern that Ms. Wilson explained about where the proposed building is situated relative to the road. And so I guess I'll start with the location relative to the road. I don't know that there's other buildings. We didn't see an aerial view. I'm sorry, I should first of all say thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is through you, a question posed to the staff. Apologies for that. It would be helpful to know where this proposed structure is relative to all the other buildings that are on the road. And I'm not sure the photos today were quite as instructive as we've had in the past. So if you could give a sense of where, is this porch then going to be strutting out towards the road in contrast to the neighborhood? And then I'll come back with a few comments after that.
Not sure, Mr. Clark, are you able to answer that? Or-
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair. So, in the staff report, we elaborated more on the existing site conditions. There's varying setbacks of surrounding development. I can't confirm the existing setback of the dwellings from a numerical sense, but we do have mapping that suggests their location in proximity to the lot lines. I wouldn't say that that's the most accurate, but there are a mix of different setbacks. Many of the buildings meet them already. There's one more to the southwest of the property that seems closer. But, as referenced, this building overall, the porch is still going to be 11 meters from the road. It's only for a specific portion of the building as well. A porch is going to be a lower profile structure than the full house. The house itself will meet 6 meters from that lot line. Given the existing buffering that's there on the road allowance, we're not of the opinion that the surrounding character is going to be significantly affected or negatively affected based on the requested encroachment, especially with the natural features we see already on the road allowance, like that bedrock and the trees, and that it's only reflected on a specific part of the building, not along the whole building either. So it's hard to confirm, but like I said, there's varying setbacks, and a lot of them are compliant, but there's a lot of different lot sizes in the area. And the properties across the road don't seem very out of character with what's being proposed. Is they're just at the setback, and it looks like perhaps closer, but it's hard to confirm with certainty.
Thank you, Andrew. I think we've come close to understanding this. The 11-meter setback then is from the edge of the road or the traveled portion of the road that the public would see, as opposed to any where the real property line is.
Yes, correct. That's taken from a measurement on their grading plan, which again is assumed to be accurate, accurate to fine level details. It's been done by a surveyor. And the actual edge of the pavement of the road that's shown on the site plan is 11 meters from the porch, so where the traveled road is. And then the rest is either the edge of the shoulder and then the remaining natural area between the road and the lot line, which is about 7 meters when I measured it just recently.
Go right ahead.
Yep, there we are. Just a couple of comments, Mr. Chair, if I could. One of them is that I thank Member Watson for raising the question, because when we heard that the drainage plan had to be implemented, the question that arose in my mind is who actually monitors that and enforces that? And I think the answer became clear that we do that, and so that was helpful. And then the other sort of random comment is, who in God's name would have allowed that little bit of property to be severed in that manner? You know, if it was this committee that allowed that a few years back, then shame on this committee. Or it could have been even historical beyond that. Thank you. And so, thank goodness we have an upgraded committee now that would not have permitted that to be severed in that way. So it just seems really odd to have to deal with odd bits in that manner. So.
Okay, thanks for your comments and questions. Anything further on this? Okay. Mr. Clark, are there any recommendations or comments to bring to the attention of the committee as a result of these proceedings?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, staff would recommend the application be approved.
Okay, thank you. So we have a resolution to approve this. We've read it already? Yes, I know. Yeah. And we will call for the vote on that now. Okay, and that carries. Thank you. I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A29-2025 GR for Isabel. I will now ask the senior planner, Angela Jacatis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located at the north end of the urban center boundary with frontage on Lake Muskoka. The property is designated Urban Shoreline Residential Area in the official plan and zoned Residential 2. Although this property is within the designated urban area, this is not an area that is serviced by municipal water and sewer. I would also point out in this particular slide, you can see it is a somewhat oddly shaped lot. And I would also just confirm that the original shore road allowance has been purchased and is part of this property, which is not reflected in this map. And the property is accessed by a private right-of-way. The property is located in a residential waterfront area with older dwellings on lots with similar terrain and coniferous vegetation along the shoreline. Just going back to the irregular lot shape, almost a lowercase h, just keep that in mind when we get to the photos. And I would also point out that as we know that the property fabric on GeoHub, the mapping system that the town uses, is not intended to be survey quality. It's just a guideline. It's a good guideline, but it certainly doesn't take the place of a survey. And this red line was drawn to approximate the property boundary for visualization purposes. And I think it's important to mention this because in correspondence that was received from the MLA, it references GeoHub building encroachments, suggesting that this mapping is more accurate than the applicant's sketch shown here. So the proposal is to remove the existing dwelling, which is shown in a solid line, construct a new dwelling represented by a dashed line, which includes an open deck represented by the hatched lines, an open deck with stairs. According to this drawing, the proposed new dwelling on its own complies with all setbacks and coverage, as the residential 2 zone is the zone that's assigned to residential waterfront properties that are located within the urban center. So it has more permissive setback, height, and lot coverage provisions than standard residential waterfront zoning. Again, because it's in the designated urban area. So the first requested variance has to do with the size of the deck at the front of the dwelling, which results in increased shoreline development of 184 square meters, where 138 square meters is permitted, that being within the first 20 meters of the water. The next variances are related to the locations of sheds at the rear of the property, which have been requested to be 3 meters and 1 meter from the rear lot line respectively, where 3.7 meter setback is required. Comments have been received from the town's chief building official, who has septic concerns, noting there are no records of the size or exact location of the existing septic. The new cottage will require a new septic system, and concerns that the lot size will not be big enough for a proper septic, and further noting that that the sheds need to be moved or removed to accommodate the new septic system. Additional comments from the town's infrastructure technologist and fire and emergency services department are of no objection. 4 letters of objection were received, each of which was provided in its entirety to all members of Committee of Adjustment and to the applicants. 3 of those letters were from neighboring property owners, and 1 was from the Muskoka Lakes Association. Concerns in the letter can generally be summarized as including the lack of a building location survey, making it impossible to correctly identify property boundaries and setbacks, incorrect information on the drawing about the buildings and parking area, insufficient parking area, which will be further constrained by the new building, the use of a right-of-way for parking and future construction, concerns about easement rights to access the neighbor's water line, potential building encroachments over the lot line, the property constraints, and the function and age of the existing septic system, as well as a natural spring and related drainage concerns. So planning staff did note in the staff report that the property boundaries or lot lines on this drawing are based on a property survey prepared by an Ontario land surveyor from 2004. However, I would also clarify that survey did not show any buildings, so the applicant has drawn the existing structures on. And just a note, as we're going through the photos, I apologize. So we were at the property on a day that was pouring rain, so the camera was wet, making the photos a bit artistic or actually blurry. So I do apologize for that. Just starting down at the waterfront, this is a photo of the existing single-story boathouse and dock, which equate to approximately 150 square meters in footprint, already exceeding the permitted shoreline development based on the property frontage. And then moving out beyond that structure to the point, at the end of the lot, turning to look northeast along the shoreline, the subject boathouse is on the right. The immediate neighbor's boathouse is beyond it, and then there's another boathouse shown in the distance. But really, this photo is partially just intended to provide an indication of, again, the irregular shape of the lot, of the shoreline in relation to the lot. And then coming from behind the boathouse and starting to move along that shoreline. The existing cottage is shown at the top left center of the photo with a fence demarcating the lot line. And the neighbor's cottage is partially visible in the mid-center of the photo. Moving further along the shoreline, standing directly in front of the cottage, you can see in these photos as well the coniferous shoreline buffer. And just as a point of reference, the proposed deck would begin at the same setback that the existing cottage is. You can also see at the left lower portion of the photo the pump house, which has been included in shoreline development but is not used for this building. It is used for a neighboring property. And then walking up behind the cottage, you can see the privy, and then the neighbor's cottage is to the upper right, and part of the septic area is at the lower right of the photo. Then turning, looking up the driveway, again, there's the privy as a point of reference. You can see the wood shed on the left and the shed on the right that are the subject of this application. As well, there is a trailer that was mentioned in the correspondence as being on the right-of-way. And I think as well, this photo perhaps best illustrates the narrowness of portions of the lot and the comment from the town's chief building official necessitating more information about a new septic. So then walking up that right-of-way, the driveway, sorry, turning and looking at the property from the right-of-way, you can see the two sheds in question, as well as the back of the dwelling. And just based on the request for variances, there does appear to be a discrepancy as the shed on the left, the request is for a 1 meter setback. The shed on, or the wood shed on the right is for a 3 meter setback. I'm sorry. And, finally, this last photo is looking northeast toward another neighbor's property. So as detailed in the staff report, planning staff are recommending deferral of this application in order for the location of a new septic system to be identified to the satisfaction of the chief building official, as that will potentially inform the location of all of the other buildings. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Jakatis. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Please come forward, and we'll need your name and mailing address.
It has to be green, all right, here. Okay, unlike Debbie, I'm green at this. This is my first time, and maybe I need Debbie's business card before I leave, because there looks to be some complexity involved. My name is Rob Isabel, 3213 33 Harbor Square, Toronto. And by the way, thank you for your cooperation, Angela and Andrew in particular, for their patience, because I've asked a number of questions, sort of being new at this process. And as I said, not familiar with all the details. We're learning very quickly. But the one thing that we do know is, as you've seen from the pictures, we bought the property almost 10 years ago. And I remember walking up, and it was an October day, October 15th approximately, beautiful view, and just basically fell in love with it. Where I'm going with this is we'd like to find a way to be able to. This was almost 10 years ago, nearing retirement now, and our needs have changed. It's a 3-season property. We still use it in the wintertime. It's pretty cold. Our family has grown. We have a couple of grandchildren now. So we'd like to build something that's more comfortable, something that's a bit bigger than what we have right now. We're open to whatever works. At the end of the day, we have 2 sheds, a couple of sheds. We have a privy. Privy can go, we can get rid of it. Sheds can be moved. We'd like to retain the sheds if possible. But if the sheds have to go, the sheds will go. It's just that simple. And we just need to figure out what we're trying to do in this process here is what can we do, basically, and we just need your help and guidance, to be able to make that happen. I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if it's for this committee, maybe it's more guidance here. The recommendation suggests that a confirmation by a licensed septic installer. We're working with a designer, architectural designer, her name is Lauren Spivak. Would a confirmation by this architectural designer be acceptable to your group instead of the licensed septic installer?
I'll let staff answer that. Angela?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's best to speak with the building department,
Okay.
and they can confirm, but it would need to be a licensed septic installer.
Okay, or that's fine, that's okay. It's more clarification. We're sort of involved with this particular designer. She's familiar with the law, design, the issues, challenges, that's fine. There are a couple of other questions, I'm assuming likely that it goes back to the building department. The main issue seems to be the septic system. We understand that there's, class 4, class 5 different septic systems, specialty septic systems. And it's our plan at this point to go and investigate what is possible. And then we can go from there. Fully aware it's an irregular lot. We knew 10 years ago when we purchased it that it might create some challenges at some point. But our mission at this point is more to identify what can we do. So I think that's all I have. Again, thank you. Any questions for me? Any general guidance somehow? Because again, this is a journey, this is a process. And if at some point you say, Rob, from what we see right now, you have no chance in hell, it's like something that we probably would want to know up front because, again, there's a fair amount of time and sort of funds involved in making this happen. So.
Well, my only comment would be if you have questions about the process or whatnot, direct those to staff.
Okay.
Either in our planning staff or in the building department, because they are the subject matter experts.
Again,
We are not. We have to take their advice, so.
Perfect. Okay, that's great.
We're
And
not
again,
going to give you any advice.
and that's good advice, right?
Yeah.
And at least I understand. As I mentioned, this is a journey, and this is more understanding. Never done this. I'm an engineer. I work in elevators. Got nothing to do with this. This is not my
Understand.
expertise, and this is why we need to rely on people like Debbie to be able to assist us. And we will be talking to a licensed septic installer in terms of the various options that we have and possibilities. But thank you for your time. So, nothing else to add. I agree with your recommendation, by the way. So,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we'll move on and ask if there's any questions from members of the public at this point. I don't see any. I have to flip my page, sorry. So committee, the staff's recommendation is to defer the minor variance application, mostly in favor of that septic information, right? So do we have a motion to defer? Mr. Watson and Member Sims, yeah? And I'll ask Mr. Ager to please read that resolution.
Moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that application number A29, 2025 GR Isabel be deferred to allow the applicant to obtain confirmation by a licensed septic installer to the satisfaction of the chief building official that a new septic system can be installed to appropriately service the proposed dwelling, and submit a new drawing showing the location of the proposed new septic system in relation to the location of all existing and proposed structures.
Thank you. Questions, comments, committee? Member Strength?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. At what point do we talk about whether the woodshed and the other structures are either moved or removed? Is that when it comes back again, Ms. Giacottis? Because they're concerning to me.
Thank you for the question. I think in this case, it is, because everything really revolves around the septic. So I think not only does it inform the location of those sheds or the potential not accommodating those sheds, that in addition, it may inform the placement and size of the dwelling as well. So really, it's the key in this case is the septic. I guess just while I have the mic, I would just take the opportunity, further to Mr. Isabel's question, if committee did have concerns with, say, the size of the deck at this point, it would be appropriate to express that at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a few comments, if I may. This is a troublesome one, and I'm supporting deferral because I think we need more information. But upgrading the dwellings all seems very positive. Upgrading the septic, absolutely required. And so I think deferral is appropriate for those reasons, because we need those answers. The density seems a little excessive, but that's where I think Ms. Strength's comments about the other outbuildings are especially relevant. The setback from the water, I must say, according to the photos, didn't alarm me an awful lot. It seemed reasonably back. But given that, but there's just so many other issues about the lot coverage being what I believe it was 150 meters squared. Is that right? 100 meters squared? The footprint at the waterfront was already quite large. So I think deferral is appropriate with the appropriate assessment by the licensed inspector. I would also actually encourage any subsequent diagrams and whatnot to show the survey detail, show that imposed on the survey, because I think that gives the credibility that was obviously called into question by a number of the commenters previously. So, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, Ms. Jakatis, do you want to comment on any of those questions, I guess?
I would just comment that the buildings are imposed onto a survey, onto a legal survey. I think the questions come in as to whether the buildings are accurately placed, but the property boundary is based on a legal survey. And I would just emphasize, sorry, if I may, that GeoHub is, as we know, is not an accurate representation of where buildings are in relation to lot lines, due to just the nature of having to make the layers match, and sometimes they don't match up properly.
Yes, we've seen that many times, that it looks like a building is encroaching on the neighbors and it's not. Question though, since we touched on the survey nature, the survey issue, because, and I think the resolution speaking to another sketch coming forward with the septic, and I'm wondering about the rights of way as well, because it's not clear to me whether the setbacks, whether, I mean, I can see on, we were sent a survey documents, and it's not clear to me whether that right-of-way is part of this parcel or not. So I'm just wondering if the setbacks shown on this sketch go to the edge of that right-of-way, or they include that right-of-way. For example, I'm showing a 2-meter setback of the dwelling, and I'm not sure if that includes that, because I think the right-of-way is about 2 meters as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look it up again, but I see Mr. Isabel's able to comment perhaps on that. But I coming forward, if we're bringing forward another sketch, I think it might be beneficial just to make sure those rights of way are shown on it as well. Did you want to comment on that? Yeah,
Included, but I will have a confirmation, and we're going to have additional details, taking your concern in mind. My understanding is it's excluded. There's a right-of-way for a line, I guess, and I believe that's out. That's not in.
yes, that's what's not clear to me, whether that right-of-way forms part of your property or is separate or on another
That's not
property.
I don't want to blame my wife on this here. She's the one that prepared it.
So
But
all
my
I'm
own-
saying is I
yes.
think it would be
The
beneficial
clarification.
to make sure that we understand that clearly, that if it's not on your property, then to me, it has no bearing on our discussions. If it is, then,
I was advised by my wife that it was not. But I need to confirm that though. Thank you. So.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to that, of course, we're not lawyers and not pretending to give legal advice or a legal opinion, but according to the survey, so there's two aspects. One is a right-of-way for access, and the other, I believe, is an easement on the side of the property for the water line, which is 1.5 meters wide. The zoning bylaw does not require any setback from a right-of-way. So the zoning bylaw requires a 0-meter setback from a right-of-way.
so in that case, as I suspected on that sketch, we're showing a 2-meter setback and that the easement, if you will, which is a right-of-way as well, but the easement is 1.5 meters of that 2 meters is what I suspected. But as you say, we're not, it would just be helpful if that were clear, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to one question to staff is, in a couple of the letters, there was reference to an underground water course or spring of some sort. I think we'll need to make sure that's addressed. And the other one is to Mr. Isabel. I wouldn't hesitate to say to you, sir, that maybe you should take a look at hiring a professional planner and help you navigate through this. And I know you're new at it, and I can appreciate what you're doing for your family, and I congratulate you on it. But I mean, I know there's some in the room, but there's lots out there, and I think that they would really help take some of the pressure and some of the questions that you have going forward out of the whole process. And in the long run, you may think it's going to cost you money, but they may save you a lot more. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments? Committee? Okay, so Ms. Jakatis, your recommendations as a result of these proceedings?
Thank you. Staff would recommend that committee defer consideration of this application.
Okay, thank you. So we'll call for the vote on the deferral.
Sorry, I just
Sorry?
have to email Howie, he's lost connection.
Oh,
So
okay, so we'll just pause briefly. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like Mr. Ungerman has joined us again, and we'll call for the vote on the resolution. Maybe not.
No, all good.
Oh, good, okay. Good. And that carries, thank you. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. Okay, sorry, I flipped ahead on myself. Okay, I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A30 2025 GR for Miller and Swatman. And I will now ask our senior planner, Angela Chikatis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located in the southwest area of the municipality on Mulder Lake. The property is accessed from Haleway Drive A privately maintained road across private property and Crown land. It is designated waterfront area in the official plan and zoned residential waterfront, RW6C. The property is located in a residential waterfront area, which is primarily used seasonally. There appears to be a mix of dwelling sizes and setbacks from the water. And based on aerial photography, this does appear to be one of the smaller dwellings along this shoreline. So the proposal is to construct a dwelling addition, which will result in a maximum dwelling width of 18.4 meters at a setback of 15.3 meters from the water at the closest point. The applicants are also proposing to construct a garage with sleeping cabin, shown at the bottom of this slide, which will be set back a minimum of 3 meters from the side lot line, where a 6-meter setback is required, representing a variance of 3 meters. And finally, there is a request for 2 shoreline storage buildings where one is currently permitted. Comments of no objection were received from the chief building official, the town's deputy treasurer, the infrastructure technologist, and the fire department. In addition, a letter of support was received from a property owner on Mulder Lake. Just going through the photos. This first photo was taken from the Haleway Drive right-of-way access, which bisects the property. And there's just an arrow looking at a stake marking the corner of the proposed reduced setback of the proposed garage sleeping cabin, which would be located to the left of the photo. As you can see, there are no other structures or neighboring structures using this area. And in this case, based on the property line location, there is no impact on matters such as privacy or things like habitat connectivity. So then turning, that is the same corner stake when viewed from the other side. In this case, the proposed garage will be located to the right of the photo. And there's, again, no noticeable impact resulting from this proposed reduced side yard setback. This photo is from the perspective of standing inside the proposed garage, looking north towards the road, the driveway, and the buildings on the subject property, which can't be seen due to the line of vegetation on the other side of the road, which screens the existing buildings and the proposed addition, dwelling addition, from the right-of-way. And I would note that there are limited areas on this property where a new garage can be built due to terrain and the location of other structures on the property. So then same spot, turning and looking to the east from the proposed garage building site, and you can see at the right, the terrain slopes steeply down to a low area. That's as is illustrated better in this photo looking west. So then moving across the right-of-way access to where the existing structures are located, you can see the back of the existing dwelling, and as well at the right, there's the shed that's located behind it. And then moving around to the side of the dwelling, This photo is looking across the area of the proposed dwelling addition. You can see that there's minimal site alteration and tree removal required, given the level and open nature of this area. And we just note that the proposed addition still results in a relatively modest footprint. And then from the same spot, turning and looking across the front of the dwelling, you can see the well-treed shoreline buffer sloping to the water. As noted in the staff report, there was a water quality impact assessment completed because the property is on Muldrew Lake. It's considered to be a vulnerable lake. And the water quality impact assessment concluded that the water quality of Muldrew could be protected with the implementation of recommendations. And so a related condition is included in the recommendation for the minor variance. And then turning again, unfortunately my face is blocking, looking down to the shore is one of the proposed shoreline storage buildings, and I would just seen better in this photo, and I would note the steepness of the shoreline down to the lake. Just looking east along the shoreline beyond with that shoreline storage building at the right of the photo. And then turning west and looking along the shoreline. And then turning and looking up the slope to the dwelling and the proposed addition area. I would again just highlight the well-vegetated shoreline buffer, which will assist in mitigating potential visual and environmental concerns. One question and area of concern is that many of these trees were marked with orange tape, indicating removal or presumably indicating removal. So if they are to be removed, they will need to be replaced with trees, not shrubs. And so that is also addressed in the related recommended conditions. And from this point, just looking at the proposed second shoreline storage building. And that concludes the presentation. As detailed in the staff report, planning staff are satisfied the proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, would recommend approval of the application with a condition requiring a site plan agreement, which includes the recommendations of the water quality impact assessment, and also confirmation of the retention of trees located between the proposed addition and the lake. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jakatis. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Please go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. Thank you to staff through you, Chair. My name is Bobby Leppington of Design by Bobby, and I'm representing the owner in this application. We're going to start with the site photos, and these 2 photos look in from the road, showing the topography is fairly flat at the driveway, sloping up slightly towards the cottage, and then significantly downwards towards the shore. This is a proposal of the cottage addition. The photo on the left, the addition is on the left, and the photo on the right is the roadside, keeping in line with that modest roof line for our addition. These 2 buildings are subject to part of the minor variance, and they are buildings that my client inherited when they purchased the property and intend to use them as shoreline storage buildings, with the intention of building that future garage at the back with the bunkie above. Topography limits what we can do in location of those buildings, and I wanted to point out on the site plan just the scale of the small shoreline structures in relation to the cottage. The cottage addition being modest in nature and keeping in character with the same roof line, and then the detached garage at the rear, because topography is a challenge and we need that side yard setback to hit a flat spot through there. All right, how is the proposal minor in nature? We provided a water quality impact assessment, and that has proved that the lot exhibits the ability to support the proposed variances without disrupting the intended balance between the natural landscape and what we intend to build. For the official plan, we know that the area is designated waterfront and allows for residential development, and this width of the dwelling is part of the variance, and it's a modest increase. Again, just a modest footprint of a cottage, keeping in line with that same roof line. How do we meet the intent of the zoning bylaw? If you looked at the lot coverage, we are well below it and maximized the shoreline development area, both good indicators that we're able to support on the property what we're proposing. How is the proposal desirable and appropriate for the land? The redevelopment of the property will maintain the existing shoreline area and the existing shoreline buffers. It's very comparable to other developments along Muldrew Lake, and again is supported through that water quality impact assessment. Beyond all the typical requirements for the water quality impact assessment, which requires silt fencing and eaves troughing, addressing stormwater management, the water quality impact assessment requires shrubs and ground cover be installed in that shoreline where the trees are, in pockets where soils are allowed. So we do intend on improving the shoreline vegetation through shrubs and ground cover in pockets where soils allow. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? Seeing none? Okay, I'll ask our senior planner if there are any recommendations as a result of these proceedings.
Thank you. Staff would recommend that committee approve the application with the recommended condition.
Okay, thank you. So the staff's recommendation is to approve the minor variance. Are we going to have a motion to that effect? Watson and Strength. And are there any questions or comments? Oh, sorry, Mr. Ager will now read that resolution.
Moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Strength. Be it resolved that application number A30 2025 GR Miller and Swatman be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared conditional upon a site plan agreement being entered into which includes recommendations of the water quality impact assessment dated November 2025 and confirmation of the retention of trees located between the proposed addition and the lake or a replanting plan to replace any trees that are being removed.
Okay, thank you. Now, committee, are there any questions or comments to anyone? Mr. Sims?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are sort of minor questions, but through you, I guess, to staff, does the replant, I'm just looking of the motion that was Adam just read, replanting, I'm hearing one person say we need to put trees back, and another saying we're going to put shrubs in, and does replanting cover all that? That would be question number one.
Thank you for that question. So certainly, it's staff's position that given the substantial shoreline buffer that's there, we'd be looking for something that's compensating on the same level. I understand that it's not possible to transplant the size of trees that are there right now, but in this case, shrubs would not be sufficient.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I guess through you, I see clarification. According to the diagrams, the road actually passes directly through the property. And I'm curious why it was being called a right-of-way access. So I'm just not sure, is that for other people who have the right-of-way, but for the occupants, the applicants in this case, that's actually just the road. They don't need a right-of-way. And then I'll let that be answered, but I should close by saying I'm in support of this application. It's a great location on a challenging property, and the additional space provided by the garage on the bunkie is a fabulous idea.
Mr. Caddis, you want to comment on the road / right-of-way?
Thank you. Because it's a private road, it could just be referred to as a road. It is a private road, so it does provide access to, I believe it's at least 5 additional properties beyond this one. And I guess, truth be told, we don't have a title search confirming that it is a right-of-way. So a road is maybe a more appropriate use of the term. Typically, private roads like this are associated with a legal right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, oh, go ahead, member Strength. I'll bring you in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I see Ms. Leppington raising her hand back there. I'm curious to have, to hear what she has to say about the trees.
We will bring Ms. Leppington forward.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the trees that are marked in orange are required to be cut for various reasons, and the town staff is looking for them to be replanted, of which we're in support of. It's the water quality impact statement that goes on to make the recommendation for the shrubs in the ground cover in pockets where soils allow on the shoreline. So both are required.
Thank you for clarifying that. Anything further? Okay, and I'll ask our senior planner for recommendations based on these proceedings.
Staff would recommend that committee approve the application with the recommended condition.
Okay, so we will call for the vote on that resolution to approve. And that carries. Thank you. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. The next Committee of Adjustment meeting is on Friday, February the 20th. And as there is no further business, can we have a motion to adjourn? Member Watson, Member Sims. And we will vote on that adjournment. Yukon Heritage Day. There you go. Okay, and that carries. Thank you. I now declare this hearing to be adjourned at 10:37. It just changed to AM.